You're live.
So good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. This is the Legislative Advisory Committee on the State House. I'm John Gray with the Office of Legislative Counsel, and I'm just kicking things off because we don't yet have a chair for this. So do we have any nominees?
I would like to propose, given the chairs of institutions will be very involved in this, I would love to propose Ruth Hardy as the chair of this committee.
I'm not on institutions, but
I know, but the chairs of institutions will both be very involved in this. And it just struck me that maybe even though Alice and Wendy are going to be so involved, it would be great to have an additional involvement of a non-institutions person.
okay. Well, thank you, Allison.
I'll second that nomination
Great. Do we have any other?
if you want to be.
Sure, sure. Whatever. Thank you.
I'm not hearing any others. So you guys, all those in favor of Senator Hardy as chair of this committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Sounds pretty conclusive to me. So I will turn that over to you.
Okay, awesome. This is a surprise to me, so I'm actually trying to find the agenda. I have the entry design overview. Megan, is there another agenda that you put together, or is this the only thing on our agenda?
The agenda should be online, but I need to get you a copy of it. But it really was.
Thank you.
just that.
That was
It
kind
was-
of it. That
Okay,
agenda.
so
And
then
committee discussion.
awesome. Is there a witness or someone are you the only person, John? Are you presenting this to you?
I think that there's going to be a review of life and safety renovations, including folks from Freeman French Freeman, Cole Barney, who's online for BGS,
Okay.
and David Sheets, who's here as well.
Awesome.
His capacity as a member and as a witness. I'm happy to get out of this chair because I don't really have much.
Do you know anything about this?
If you would like to know things.
Do you want to riff?
Provide a quick transition intro.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you, Madam Sergeant at Arms.
So, I'm Sergeant Arms. I think I know everybody. And you've probably spoken with me about this project, but not as a member of this committee, as kind of like, I'm a part also of the design team. So today I'll be listening and chiming in wherever I need to, but we have Sean Brennan from Freeman French Freeman. He's the principal architect that has been working on this project with other architects in his office and a team of subcontractors that include civil engineers and landscape architects and structural engineers and code experts and a bunch of people. So he brings a powerhouse of expertise to the project. And then I should start by saying it's a BGS project. This was approved in, I think it was Act 69 of 2023. It's taken a long way to get to designs, but we have them. And that's what we're going to walk through today. So BGS, we have Sherilyn is here and Joe Aja, Cole and Deputy Commissioner Kasicki is here. And David Sheets, our state curator, is also a part of the design team and also a member of this committee. We also have Laura, who's been on the design team, who represents historic preservation. We're bringing on also a historic preservation consultant to help with the project. And then Trisha Harper is the architect consultant for the legislature and has been there for almost every meeting, if not every meeting. Is that it for the design team? I believe so. So the purpose of today is to bring you through some of the designs. And actually, we've met with several of the people already on this committee as part of our stakeholder engagement process, including Representative Molly Burke, who couldn't be here today.
Yes. Molly,
Yeah.
Molly is sad to not be here, but she's actually in transit from Oregon back to Vermont, so she was not able to be there. I hate to ask this question, but who's there in person? Because I can't see who's there in person other than John and Agatha and Ruth.
From the committee who's here in person?
Yeah, actually, so why don't we take a pause and just introduce everybody at the table and in the room so that everybody understands who's here. Would that be helpful, Senator Clarkson?
I think Alice and I would find that very helpful.
Awesome. We will do that. We'll start, actually, why don't we actually start with you and we'll do everybody online first and then we'll do everyone in the room. So why don't you introduce yourself, Senator Clarkson, and then Representative Emmons, and we'll go from there.
Allison Clarkson.
From the Windsor District.
Allison Clarkson, Windsor District, Chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, on GovOps, and a very active member of the Friends of the State House, who need to be at this table also. And so I'm happy to be here in that capacity as well. Pass it
Awesome.
over to Alice Emmons.
Representative Alice Emmons from Springfield and Chair of the House Corrections and Institutions Committee.
Great, thank you. I see Scott on there.
Good morning, Scott Moore, Joint Fiscal Office.
Thank you, Scott. And Cole, are you just online or you are in the room as well? I'm sorry. Okay, well then that's a good transition. We'll go to the people in the room and you can start.
My name is Cole Barney, and I'm Communications and Legislative Affairs with PGS.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Cheryl Lackley. I am one of the project managers at Buildings and General
Sorry, we couldn't hear her.
Okay, yeah, just speak really loud because I think the mic is up here.
Sherilyn Lackley. I am the project manager for Buildings and General Services.
I'm Joe Agent, Director of Design and Construction with BGS.
I'm Sean Brennan with Freeman French Freeman. I'm the principal in charge of the project and the head of the design team.
You've already met me, but I'm still John Gray with the Office of Legislative Counsel.
Michael Sherman from Ledge Council, just sitting in this morning, interested.
Excellent.
Trisha Harper, I'm the Legislative Facilities Coordinator.
Legislative Facilities Coordinator.
And head architect also.
Awesome.
I've been working for BGS for 30 years and then I retired.
They brought you back.
Well, no, Agatha, Janet brought me back.
Got it. Okay.
Took me out of retirement.
A false retirement. Understood.
Matt Levin, registered lobbyist.
Who are you here representing?
No one.
Okay, just yourself.
I am the executive director of the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance, but I've been registered lobbyist in the building for over 20 years.
Okay, I was just trying to find the connection to what I know you do.
I'm here as a member of the lobbying community.
Awesome. Okay.
And Ruth, the connection is we all use and love the State House.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Allison. See, Matt. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Emily Kosicki. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Buildings and General Services. I'm sitting in on the committee for Commissioner Manoli, who couldn't be here today, but also very involved with the project team, working with the Sergeant at Arms and the architect and other stakeholders on moving this project forward.
I'm Laura Trishman. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer, and I've been part of the design team as well.
I'm Michelle Bailey, a Senior Program Manager at the Vermont Arts Council. I have administer our public art programs, which includes art and state buildings, and I also administer cultural facilities grants. So I'm just here to learn more.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Evans McClure. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Arts Council and a new committee member. I've never been to one of these committee meetings before. Thank you.
I'm Senator Ruth Hardy. I guess I'm the chair. And I represent the Addison District. I've been on this committee for a long time, but we have not met, I think, for like 5 years or something like that.
So I didn't miss anything.
You didn't miss anything. We haven't met, so it's exciting to be back talking about something this important.
Great. I'm Eileen Corcoran. I'm the Director of Service and Outreach for the Vermont Historical Society, and I'm sitting in for our Executive Director, Steve Perkins, who is on sabbatical right now.
Oh, cool. I like the fact that he's on sabbatical. That's very jealous.
I think he likes it too. So
how long
Wait, Senator Clarkson, hold on just a second. Go ahead.
Agatha Kessler, Sergeant at Arms.
David Sheets, State Curator, and both us, the design team as well.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Now, hopefully everyone knows at least sort of who everyone is. And Allison, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to ask how long Steve was on sabbatical, because that's kind of a great thing.
It's a 3-month sabbatical. So he started mid-July. So he's about a month in. So, yeah.
We should be enabling sabbaticals for everybody. That is such a great idea.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we are going to, I believe, turn it over to the design team. And Sean, is that you who's going to give the presentation, or
They're deciding.
they're figuring it out? You all can come up here and bring chairs and
Team effort.
yes, I would hope so. And
Yes, you to frame,
Please.
maybe not what the jurisdiction of this committee is, because I think John could help with that, but to frame oversight over the project, which is this project, through a bill last year, and I can't remember which one it is, there is a legislative committee that oversees this project. It's Joint Legislative Management Committee plus the two institutions chairs. So they're our checkpoint. They are our jurisdiction checkpoint for the design and the project. So don't feel like you need to make decisions today. This is really an advisory capacity to help us with our design process. So just want to make sure that at least the legislators, and certainly Representative Emmons knows that, Senator Clarkson, that there is a oversight committee for this.
okay, that is helpful. And John, actually, I'm going to ask you what our role is
Sure.
then in this.
Choose a new chair this time. Kind of screen share if it's helpful. It's really brief. This is, as you noted, a long-standing committee. There have been occasionally interim or special committees related on similar topics, but let me just pull up and see. I still remember how to do this. Look at that.
Oh,
Okay.
impressive, John.
So these are the two directives, under 2 VSA section 653, the committee shall, and I think in particular are concerned about A1 today, at least a portion of this, review, coordinate, and make recommendations on all activities relating to the collections and care of art, historic artifacts and furnishings, and the refurbishing, renovation, preservation, and expansion of the building and its interior. So I think that final clause is what's you're addressing today. Additionally, the committee within its capacity shall approve a collections policy. I think this is a earlier matter, but related to the State House collection. But today, I think you're firmly within A1. Refurbishing, renovation, preservation, expansion of the building. And as Agatha noted, it's an advisory committee, and in particular, your actions today are taking in information, but even were you to make recommendations, as you can see in 653B, it's for the Sergeant at Arms and the Commissioner of BGS in discharging their responsibilities to maintain the structure of the State House. That's what you see the site to 62A6. And then in terms of preservation of the State House, which is a particular responsibility of BGS to consider the recommendations of the committee. So this is truly an advisory committee. But pretty generic set of functions here today, fitting in A1.
All right. Are there any questions for John about what we're doing here today? What our role is in all of this?
And if it's helpful, I can flip to those other sections, but they are pretty much as I described. The Sergeant at Arms has an obligation to maintain the structure, and then BGS has particular responsibilities with the State House maintaining sort of the historic character. And then under 154A, you have the curator's responsibilities related to the State House as well.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Sergeant at Arms, for, I'm assuming you're the one who suggested that we convene to look at this. Okay.
Decision, yes.
That's great. I'm glad that we do have a chance to hear about what's going on. So yeah, thank you. Thank you both. Thanks, John. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may add just a little bit more context, and this may come up in the presentation as well, but I wanted to compliment Sergeant at Arms for really thinking through and leading some public engagement as we're going through the design process. And this is an important part of that, right, in the advisory capacity. But the group has been working with and reaching out to other key stakeholder groups to solicit feedback as part of the process as well. So I just wanted to, again, give those kudos and just share that off the top of that sort of feedback gathering work that the team is doing.
That's great. So On the committee, how many of you are in the loop about this and have heard about the plans? Okay.
Alice and I have.
Okay, almost everyone except for me. Awesome. Thank you. So the two, and you're sort of.
I'm not on the committee.
Okay.
I haven't seen a little bit.
Well, thank you for having this meeting for me.
Well, and Molly got brought up to speed because she wasn't going to be able to be here. So Molly also has seen the initial, the plans.
Okay, that's great. Awesome. Thank you. That's really helpful to understand. So I'm going to turn it over to the two of you and whoever else on your team you want to come up and talk about it, to give us a presentation of where we're at with the design and what type of feedback would be helpful at this point.
Okay, great. For the record, Joe Ajit, Director of Design and Construction of Buildings and General Services.
Sean Brennan, Freeman French Freeman.
And I think that the Sergeant Arns gave a great intro a little bit earlier on, so I won't go through that again. We have a slideshow to present to you on where we're at. We're coming towards the end of what is known as design development. And that's just one of 3 phases of design and construction that we're going through. This here you're going to see when we show you the slideshow is really some renderings of what we're looking to complete the design of. And there's some options in there that we have investigated, and we now believe we have a path forward. Still listening to all of the public hearings that they've been having to help formulate that and go forward.
Sean, before we start, may I just ask a question, because we talk about the purpose of this renovation, and I think it's important for people to really take on what the purpose is of this. And I think in addition to disability access and safety, security, which is what we talk about generally, there are 2 other very important pieces that we don't talk about, but that are just as important. One is visitor orientation, and the other is education, the education experience. We have thousands of students who come through every year, and we have even more, tens of thousands of visitors who come through every year. And those are 2 key and important additions to security and disability access.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think we'll hear the presentation, then we'll open it up to questions and discussion about it, if that is okay. Yeah, yeah, sure.
One additional element, thinking about the purpose and the genesis of this project, and I wasn't in my role when this all initiated, but part of the strategy was having a point of entry during COVID where folks could get screened, and so that you'd have sufficient space for folks to come in and go through that screening process. So that still remains an element of the project. There is initially, for the funding for this, did involve some ARPA funds, again, as part of that COVID pandemic response. So that is still an important element that this structure would facilitate, right? Having the ability to do that if there were a need again in the future, along with the other purposes that the senator mentioned, including security, visitor orientation, accessibility, all of the above. So it achieves multiple goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, the last time this committee met regularly was when we were trying to devise plans for coming back to the State House after COVID. And one of the issues was exactly as you were saying, there was no entry point that made sense, and there wasn't enough space to do all the things that we felt like we needed to do. So yeah, this is helpful to have that perspective. So, okay, go ahead, take it away.
All right, well, to build upon that, it has evolved from the beginning, as that is an important feature, but what that also allows you to do is security screening, because it's a similar function. So that became an impetus for the project as we moved through it, because of various security issues that were being seen nationwide. And so this became an important feature for this as well. But there were other things that we needed to do as part of this project, in addition to those 3 things being accessibility and the 2 screening functions. We also wanted to improve life safety issues, and that had to do with exiting, because you did not have any qualified exiting from that portion of the building that actually strictly conformed to the code requirements Obviously, much of the building was built well before codes were formed. So you've been trying to upgrade as you go. And this is one step further to try and improve life safety features of the building itself. So that comes with its own requirements as to how you pursue this project. We also have not only an entry for people to visit the State House, but this is also an entry for deliveries. It has been, it is currently, and it will be because it's the main access point to the vertical circulation being the elevator that goes to the cafeteria. So we need to keep deliveries in this area, but we don't want to mix the traffic as much as possible. We want to separate that. And that's also one of the goals of this project is to maintain both types of traffic, but keep them as separate as we can. So we have a lot of those features that are today solutions, but as part of this, we also don't want to preclude any future additions or renovations that may need to happen for something we can't foresee right now. So we're trying to plan for the future as well with this solution. So keep that in mind as well as like, well, why did they do that? Well, sometimes there's a reason that we want to make sure we can get from here to there 20 years from now if we want to build something. So that's a concern as well. So this is showing you, actually, this is a slide that David often speaks to. But what this shows is the various states of additions that have happened at the State House complex over the years, the various colors showing the different years and showing that this is very much a living building and that it has changed over time. And while some has intentionally been kept as original as possible or brought back to original in some cases, other areas have evolved as they've been added and adapted over the years. And what we're doing is continuing that process and trying to make a cohesive connection between all these disparate aspects of the State House complex. So the circled area is really where we're working, and that has to do with filling in those white areas between those colored spaces. And so the far left of that circle, that ellipse, is where our entry is planned to be, and that's where you enter currently. We keep maintaining that as an historic wayfinding mechanism because that's where people go now in most part, especially since pandemic issues have come up and they've been trying to create that entry point. It's not that welcoming, I'll just say that. I mean, I think everyone would agree. So how do we improve that and still maintain that current location? It's very confined. The other point that was brought up earlier is part of this project isn't just getting you into the building, but trying to make it a logical way to get through the building. So you can see where that circle, that ellipse is. If you follow that line from one end to the other horizontally, what we're doing is taking you from a new entry all the way over to the Lincoln hallway and trying to meet that main access through the State House. And so our wayfinding is turning into a very visual path. Once you're at that entry, you can see all over where you're going, which certainly isn't the case at the current entry. You need a map or a guide.
So I'm going to interrupt you and go back on we're going to wait till you're finished. And I think we're going to ask questions as we go because I already have questions. So if anyone else has questions too, let me ask and then I'll go to you, Laura. The brighter blue little rectangle there, what is that now? Is that something now?
Yes, that is something that exists currently. That is part of the HVAC upgrades that occurred at the State House and are still going. We're in I don't know what.
And that's back here in that part. Okay. And then the sort of the orange that says ancillary infill, what is that?
Yeah, that's the area where you'll see, that's where the elevator is.
I mean, all mechanical HVAC equipment is, that was added in. It's in an area that you really don't get to see.
But that's where the elevator is? Is that what you
If you're going down the corridor on the first floor on the elevator, if you run straight, you'd be entering that space.
Okay.
It's infill that occurred in 1971 when the State House went through its big renovation that did a lot of damage to the building from a historic point of view. But the machine room is the other side of room 11. So we have false windows where the machine room is currently those 3 windows were recreated as part of the restoration. And anyway, that's infill. Then there's a roof, and you see the roof when you look out the windows of the Cedar Creek room.
Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. Thank you. Laura.
Thank you. Mine's not so much a question, but I wanted to add to what Sean said about the future. We don't want to lean too far over our skis, like the cafeteria addition was designed for the future, for alterations to happen, additions, and it doesn't meet code. So we don't want to overbuild, over-engineer. We want to stay right where we are, but allow for future things to happen in a different way.
Okay.
That's a very good point, because you try your best to predict what will happen in the future, but that's a prime example of that didn't pan out. And so you actually landlocked yourself, not you guys, obviously, but we as a group, as the state, landlocked ourselves in that location where it's very expensive now to try and build over that, as the original intent had been.
The original intent was to put a second story on top of it, but it's functionally not possible.
Not without incredible upgrades to the structure.
Right. And that was the hope, is that we could put a 3rd story above the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Turned out, I think, right, Sean, the pilings or whatever were not strong enough or not able to actually deal with what had been intended.
Correct. The current code, the code always advances and it gets more restrictive. So we just can't meet it with what's there now.
Okay. Are there further questions or comments on this slide? Okay, carry on.
All right, so we went through a process. This is a slide that's been put into the deck recently. It was something that the team has seen a good deal of, these designs. We dressed them up a little bit for outside viewing, just because not everyone's been part of the group, obviously, and doesn't know the progression. But what this is showing is that the group did look at a number of different types of designs that could potentially go in this location. Understanding the various limitations that the site presents. And actually, that's a good point. I'll just hit a couple of them here we call them limiting factors as we were working through it. As you all know, we're in the kind of an alley. So we have a lot of roofs, some of them very steep, dropping ice and snow into this alley. And how do we protect our addition from that? So wayfinding we've hit upon, that's a key element. The slope for the hill behind us makes us be in a certain location with a new entry. We can't really go further north without incurring a lot of disruption and a lot of expense by basically drilling out rock, which we don't want to do. Historic preservation concerns, that's top of mind all the time when we're doing this. So we want to affect existing walls and windows and construction as little as possible with what we do. And then the traffic security. And is it appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish? That's always a question we ask ourselves. And that's a very subjective question. And it's hard to get the same answer out of everyone. Everyone has a different opinion as to what's appropriate. And this slide speaks to that, is the group looking at all these options decided as a group what they felt was probably the most appropriate direction going forward, knowing it can be adapted as we keep going, because design is always a fluid process. So it always evolves. But what direction are we planning to go? And so out of all of this, the general consensus was that we're going in the one that's in the upper left. That was the direction to go in.
Oh, that's good. That's the one I like the best.
Okay, excellent.
Woo, so far, you're batting 1,000.
Well, and it beautifully mimics the dome. I mean, it you know, there's nothing round in the lower stories, but it's beautiful. It refers to the dome. It's just a lovely tie-in to the dome, I think.
Thank you. And that's the intent, is we don't want to duplicate it, but we want to respect it and take elements that we think are very attractive and use them again, because it's part of the site. And we don't want to make something completely foreign, but something that's unique so that it helps with wayfinding. What you'll see here, this is a very early sketch. The actual scale of what it is.
Can I stop you for a second? Can you explain a little bit more? I think I know what you mean, but what you mean by what wayfinding?
Wayfinding is If you're visiting the site, how do you know where to go?
Okay.
And that, you can do that with giant signage, which we try to avoid as architects. You should be able to try to find your way by how the building reads. So how do you know where the original front door is to the State House? A giant portico with columns.
Right.
With giant doors. Very clear, right in the middle of the building. That's where I go. Well, now we're on the side and the back of the building. How do I know where to go? Well, something that's interesting and welcoming. That we can't do it with scale. We don't want to compete with the State House. But how else can we do it? And so we can do it with geometry, we can do it with scale, we can do it with materials. And so that's the palette we have to use. And so while this is an early sketch, we've refined it since this point. So the scale has changed a little bit because sketching, you're doing freehand. Now we actually have measured drawings. It's a little shorter now, so it pays a little more deference to the annex. And we put a little more stone in it, things like that, and that'll continue to evolve. But the general idea is encapsulated with this design that you see.
I like all the glass. I think that's very welcoming and it's different than the rest of the building. So that it feels more open and welcoming, like, please come in, look what we're doing in here.
Yes. And it's a very dark side of the State House, so it brings so much light into what's a very dark part of the State House.
Yeah.
Most recently, as Sean said, we dropped the height a little bit to line this up more with the second story windows in the 1880s annex. And the roof deceptively looks like it's part of it, but the roof that you see above it is actually from the State House cafeteria addition. So there is a steeply pitched roof with rusticated granite that was part of the 1986 addition, and that hovers above it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Good point. I see that on, but it's very unclear in the drawing that there's layers that you're seeing here. And groups wanted to see that layering, to see what was behind the addition so that to know that it would still be visible as an element. Obviously, when you're there, you notice it in person that it would be way behind, but a drawing is a little hard to show that. So thank you, David. It's very helpful.
Sean, can I just build on that question and we've talked about this before as we've looked at this design. The snow load that this new roof is going to have to take is the snow load from the cafeteria and from the State House, also from the 19th century edition. So the snow, there's still going to be snow dropping on this roof. There was one moment where we took the roofs up and unified them all. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And is there a reason we're no longer doing that? Because that struck me as a smart thing to do, given the amount of snow that we all see every time we walk across the path to the cafeteria. I mean, you can see that snow load coming off pretty clearly.
Absolutely. And in many ways, that's a technically much simpler solution. We were just talking about that today, actually. But what it does do is it encloses a large portion of the original construction. And so it puts it from outside to inside and blocks all the north-facing windows of the House chamber. And so that was deemed to be a very detrimental aspect of that design. And I agree, it does really change a lot of the aspects of how you experience the original State House. And so while this solution with a lower roof is much more complicated and we're working through those complexities, it does preserve the way you do experience a lot of the State House proper. So that was the intent of lowering the roof in many regards. And I think it succeeds in that. It just does make it more complex to design.
So I hate to ask the obvious, but those windows, the north-facing windows in the house are all shuttered. They're not open. So I'm just curious what you are, I mean, and if you took it up and then had light, if it was light, you'd have more light, you'd have the same amount of light in the committee rooms And in the past, you'd have the same amount of light if you took it up and had skylights there so that you had light.
That's a very excellent question and comment, and something we have looked into because that would be spectacular. The issue we find is getting back to a topic I had earlier, which is codes. So the issue we have is because the State House, the original State House, and the annex by extension has so many non-conforming code issues that we have to separate it from the northern construction. And by doing that, we have to create rated construction between this addition and the State House, which means it either has to be a solid fire rated wall, which we don't want, or it has to be fire rated glazing, which is a very special, thick construction that's very expensive. And we are having to do that on some areas where we are underneath the roof on the State House and the annex.
Wait, can I stop you to make sure I understand? So if we did something like Senator Clarkson is suggesting, the old and the new would touch each other more, and therefore you would have to bring the old stuff up to code because you're actually physically touching it.
Correct.
And the code that you're talking about
Fire code.
is fire code.
Correct.
So it's a safety code. It's not
Yes.
there's a real reason for that code. Okay.
The two types of construction, I don't want to get too technical on you, but the two types of construction are different. The type of construction for the State House is type 3 construction and will be actually type 2 construction, meaning there are combustible elements in this building. We're not allowed to have combustible elements in our new construction, and we have to separate those two because they're different.
Got it. Okay. And the combustible elements that are allowed in this building are because it's historic and it was built before the fire codes were up to where they are now.
That's the purpose of type 3 construction, is to account for that.
And just to remind everybody, the first 2 state houses did burn down. So we don't want that to happen again.
Just the second.
Oh, just a second. I thought it was the first 2. Sorry, David. Thank you. Still bad. There's precedence.
Just share with us, other than the legislators themselves, which are combustible, tell me what is combustible in the State House at the moment? What is considered combustible in the historic State House?
So, David can speak to this as well, but the structure above what you see is timbers. So it's wood construction. So if you ever went up above the ceilings, you'll see that it's all wood that's framing what is the structure of the State House in the roof area. So you have load-bearing masonry and timber framing, and that's type 3 construction.
Thank you.
Okay. Matt, please
Madam
go
Chair,
ahead.
This sketch highlights something I didn't notice in an earlier meeting that I attended. Thank you. I'm noting, speaking of fire, I'm noting the fire escape, which in some ways is, we forget it, but this design, I think, unfortunately perhaps highlights the fact that it is hanging out on the side of the building. I just wonder if there are any efforts to address that or do something about that, since this would draw attention to something that is very useful, but perhaps not as architecturally pleasing.
These are great questions because these are all topics we did discuss at length. So thank you for bringing that up. Our original design scope of this project was much larger than what it is currently. Obviously, prices went up quite a bit during COVID and we had to scale back the project. So initially we had looked at rearranging aspects of the annex. We actually had a taller addition in certain parts of it. And we were figuring out a new way to exit the building towards the back rather than through the fire escape. That ended up being too much for the budget to handle. And so what we have done, and I'll get back to a previous topic, which is thinking about the future. So what we are doing is keeping what's there, and that will stay there. But we are designing a path such that in the future, you can construct a way to create a means of egress from the annex to the back stair so that you could eliminate that fire escape in the future. So that's something that can be done. We don't have the budget, but we can allow it, and with what we do now, to happen in the future.
And do Do you have visuals that show the inside that you could, I'm trying to figure out how, I can't see it in my head, where the egress would be.
So what would happen is, one design, between committee rooms, there's the main corridor down the annex. Between committee rooms, I can't get up there.
Committee rooms in the annex.
In the annex.
The House committee.
Yes.
Between them, you would shorten one committee room and make a hallway.
Okay.
And then you would go north.
Hallway to the addition.
Across the top of the addition.
Uh-huh.
And go over to that stair that you see in the upper left corner.
I see.
That helps me is it's room 33. I think about being in room 33, which is now that committee room that's no longer a committee room.
Uh-huh. It's the hideout room.
Yes. And I think about walking across.
It's
Okay.
a singer's rehearsal room.
Yes, it has Madeline Cunan's couch in it. Yes. Okay. That's
There, I will say this, I recently sent, I think, your way if you go online, turning old fire escapes into works of art is a worldwide phenomenon. In Paris, London, and other locations. I mentioned this to my friends at the Arts Council, that we might see an opportunity to use the fire escape for some such purpose while we're still saddled with it. I appreciate that the design takes into account some future time when we might eliminate it altogether.
Yeah. Wait, what, Senator, hold on just one second. We have another question in the room. And then I'll go to you, Michelle.
No, it's okay. Michelle's much better.
No.
Thank you. Michelle Bailey from the Vermont Arts Council. I just had a comment, just thinking about the multiple purposes of this building and accessibility being one of them. And at the Arts Council, I'm the accessibility coordinator, so I wear multiple hats. But I'm just a comment when I look at this rendering, which I think is beautiful. My first thing that I see are stairs, stairs, stairs. And so I just think if there's some future iteration of this where we can really visually see that at the access, I think it would go a long way to improving that visual perception of wayfinding and welcoming.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent point. We have heard that in the public meetings.
Yes.
We have told the groups as we've talked to them that we are in the process of bringing a landscape architect on board. We now have them. I'm actually meeting with them this afternoon to go over their thoughts on the actual design for the site, because not all of this is accurate. You could probably find some things that are inaccurate about the sketch because it's just a sketch. Like I know there's a door missing. I know there's a door there.
Right.
But yeah, and we put steps in because there's a great change and you put steps in an early sketch. We do not know how the accessibility is going to actually play out. We know there's going to be ramps, not even ramps, sloped earth, honestly, because it's not going to be 1 to 12. It's going to be 1 to 20 or less. So we're going to manage that. And actually we want everybody on the same path. So it could be there are no steps. And if there are, they'd be ancillary on the side. They wouldn't be the main path. So that's our goal. And we'll see how best we can achieve that. It is a challenging site. I will put that out there. But landscape architects shouldn't have it any easier than we do. We have a lot of challenges at work. So we'll make them work for it.
Senator Clarkson.
No, I was just going to say, I completely agree with Matt. The fire escape is odious. On the other hand, I bet Michelle and Susan and David can come up with an opportunity for it being either painted or, art expressions, using it as an opportunity for art in some way that doesn't impede an exit. So I think it may be an opportunity for a short bit. We might even consider painting it, but it is ugly, and it's hard that we aren't able to redesign it, at least short term, to have something that's more attractive, because it's awful. And as we all know. So anyway, but I have faith that Susan and Michelle and David could come up with something really fun.
Susan, go for it. What do you got?
I just want to say for the record, I have a million ideas, but we also have to be considerate of historic preservation aesthetics of what potentially I would put on the fire escape and all of the stakeholders in that decision. But my question is actually about the glass. Like, I love the glass. It would be amazing to have more light in the building, all those things. Can you or someone talk about the security safety of all of that glass if one of the primary purposes is security?
Yeah, the security is an interesting topic as it relates to glass. Obviously, it's a competing interest with welcoming. You want a secure wall, you want a concrete wall. Well, that's not very welcoming. So how do we achieve that? And we have been in discussions with Capitol Police and with BGS as to how we can achieve that. We have other issues with glass as well, as like solar heat gain. It can all be tuned, so we can address how much heat gain we have. We can address heat loss, which we will. We can also address security. So that goes to the use of ballistic glass and how much do you need? Where do you need it? So those are issues we will talk about with the Capitol Police. Obviously, person height is ideal. We have more space than that, and we don't necessarily need protection in that location. So being smart with our money and being smart with our security and safety are things that we're very cognizant of, and we're getting to that point. We have those ideas, but we're in DD right now where we're fleshing out all of the parameters of what we're doing. So that'll be next on the agenda, is dealing with materials. So that's a very important topic that's coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, and I previously worked on a big construction project that involved an entryway that was a lot of glass, and there are a million lessons learned from all of that glass.
Yes.
So none of them positive. Even the light ended up being a detriment to heat issues, collections related issues. I mean, there's nothing in that space right now, but I love glass and I love light, but it is something that I've experienced before in major construction projects that looks really great on the renderings and then in practice can often be very challenging.
It has to be controlled. It's a very strong challenge, and we understand that. So absolutely, that's going to be something we look at from all aspects.
Are you familiar by any chance with the Scottish Parliament building?
It rings a bell, actually.
It's a fairly new building. It's about 20 to 25 years old. It was built in the early 2000s when they reconstituted the Scottish Parliament.
Yes.
It is a stunning, amazing building. Highly recommend. It has a lot of glass. I visited last year. It's pretty amazing. And they might have some suggestions on how to deal with security and glass.
Appreciate that. That's probably, if it's 20 years ago, that's probably why it rings a bell, but
Yeah, it's a really amazing building. Anybody who ever goes there needs to visit it. It's a great building in terms of how it deals with art and welcoming and the work in the building. I was just stunned on all accounts on how they deal with the building, and the tour was amazing. Highly recommend.
One of the reasons I like glass here is the same reason that we cannot, at least in this design, have what is a true atrium. And the atrium is what you were talking about, Allison, where light pours in and it's an inspired space. Unfortunately, the only light that this addition can have is right here at the entrance, because it's butting out ever so slightly. Everything behind the State House is the south-facing sunlight, and the building blocks the rest of the addition. So without it above, which is challenging for the roof lines, and enclosing too much of the second story where the principal chambers are located, where this is our chance to have an inspired and light-filled entrance as they burrow into the darker parts.
We're going to have an amazing lighting.
Amazing light designer. That's great.
Claire Hardy, I had just a couple comments on both security and accessibility. One, the glass. So we've consulted with our Capitol Police and with BGS Security specifically to talk about glass. the reality is, and without getting into too many details, there's a lot of glass in the State House. And you take this room as an example. So the goal is not to fortify the building, it's to secure it. So it's a balancing act, but know that there are experts that are studying that. If you have any lessons learned to pass along, we'd love to hear them. And then second on accessibility, part of our stakeholder engagement, this comment on the steps, the first, we had a different photo or different rendering that had a series of steps. And I think that's the one we showed to you. So we've actually since modified it to show less steps and met with groups like Vermont Center for Independent Living that use a term no step thresholds, no step entrances. So we're actually scheduling a forum with families with the help of the Vermont Center for Independent Living to actually hear from like people who are going to walk through that front door. What do they want to see? What do they want to experience? So it's an excellent point and something we're already trying to modify.
Alice has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alice. I can't see anyone else on the screen beside Allison for some reason. So Alice, go ahead.
That's understandable, no problem. I appreciate the conversation about all the glass and in terms of the temperature control as well as looking at security issues. I'm curious in terms of, I know we're going to be looking at dollar amounts and we're not completely through the design documents piece yet, which will firm up a little bit more of those dollars. How much of an increase would it be to the project cost for all that glass and to reinforce it in whatever way, but also to work with the temperature control? What would be additional cost to the project? Because that's not included in what we're looking at today, I'm assuming.
The glass as it is now, meaning tuned glass for temperature control and visibility control, we have that as well, is included in the budget that we have. We do not have ballistics glass accounted for. That's more expensive. So if we had that, we'd try to see how that works in the budget and what other trade-offs we would have to accommodate that and how much we would need if we go that path. There are pluses and minuses to doing that, as far as functionality and for safety purposes and budgetary reasons as well. So that would be a trade-off the group as the project team would have to decide upon. We did look at it early on. That was something the Capitol Police had brought up. But part of the drawbacks of that is, unless it's properly designed, it can also be a problem for it solves a problem with ballistics well, but it also can create a problem with explosives. So that's something you have to look at when you're dealing with that type of product, is how do you use it so that you're not creating other problems.
What do you mean it can cause a problem with explosives?
So if you use ballistic glass and you don't make explosive panels, what happens is the regular glass construction will allow the energy from that explosion to dissipate. Whereas if you have ballistic glass, it is strong enough that it'll concentrate it. And then the concussive force increases because it bounces off those surfaces.
Wow. So it causes explosions on the outside.
And so what it'll do is it'll keep if it happens inside the building, because you haven't been screened yet, it'll contain it inside that space and create a worse condition in the building because it doesn't let it dissipate to the outside.
I see. Okay.
Sort of like an interior earthquake.
Yeah. Or think of something going off in a concrete room.
Yeah.
To get back, and
Go ahead, Rep. Emmons.
To get back, okay, when you have your final design documents, the end of this year.
Representative Emmons, we can't quite hear you. You're sort of coming in and out.
I know my internet is not stable.
Okay, maybe.
When you get.
If you want to text me or question Alice, I'm happy to convey it.
Yeah.
And I'll just make a quick recommendation, maybe while Representative Emmons fixes her internet. If there are specific questions or concerns about security of the entryway, perhaps those could be communicated through the recommendation, and JLMC, that special committee, could deliberate. I would recommend an executive session because we start to get into an area of talking about the security vulnerabilities of the building. So just a recommendation.
That is a fair point. Yes.
That's fair. Agatha, what you said is so important for us to take into mind, which is we're not fortifying it, we're securing it. We're not creating a fort here. We're creating a beautiful entryway.
Yep. Senator Clarkson, could you mute for a second so we can see if Rep. Emmons can come through?
Or you can text me. I don't think my muting is going to make it.
Go ahead, Rep. Emmons. Are you able to talk at this point?
Can you?
No, we can't. You're still coming in and out. So if you could either text Senator Clarkson or message Megan. Megan can also relay what you have to say. Yeah, it's not working, unfortunately. So we're going to move on. If you want to message either Megan or Senator Clarkson, they can relay your comment or your question. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to turn it back to you, Sean.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
More context. Representative Emmons, I heard you say when you finish design documents, and this something that we skipped through off the top and will be covered at the last slide, but just a little bit about process.
Yeah.
So right now, Representative Emmons, because I know you know our process very well, we are nearing the end of design development, and then we'll be moving into construction documents. So we still have time as we're finalizing design, but really for the construction documents, but really we're at nearing the end of the design development phase. So again, we'll talk in more detail at the last slide on that, but just some context for where I think you might have been going with your question.
Okay, thank you. Go for it.
Sure. Which slide are we on now?
This one is the next one, yeah.
Site plan, we have, as I said, a landscape architect I'm meeting with now. This is the civil plan, as you can see from all the contours and all those things. They're interested in that stuff. But what this is trying to indicate to people is our first pass at traffic flow. That's really what this is about, is separating vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, and how do we accommodate deliveries. And that's the main purpose of this drawing, because that's their primary charge, is how do we get things to and from this site. And so what you'll see here is the lower left corner is the corner of Bacon and Baldwin. And there's the crosswalk that crosses where the path goes up to the State House. That's what that little dashed line there of the crosswalk is. Trucks will still be going up that drive, and they will turn to the left at the top left of the sheet, and then back up to the loading area, which is at the top center of the sheet in the dark gray. The dark gray represents the addition. And see where you see TBD to orient you a little bit, because they don't care about orientation. They know where they're drawing, but I have to present the sheet where it says TBD on that. That's the annex underneath that area.
Okay. So so deliveries will go in, I understand that. What will other traffic go in, or driving traffic?
No, the deliveries will, and accessible parking is by Baldwin. So we have 2 slots there for accessible parking and access to the entry. And also, all of the parking is in flux right now because of the Capitol Complex design. And others can speak to that more than I can, but I've heard it being said in different groups. And even the parking that we're showing isn't finalized by any means. It's just, we have a placeholder to say, we know we want accessible parking. We're saving this spot. It may be somewhere else.
Okay.
Nearby, but we at least know we want some.
Where is JFO in relationship to this? Is it?
It's the pink lady.
Yeah. Is it this? Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I thought. This is it. And so the parking would be sort of where that gate is that comes down behind JFO?
It's actually where there is 2 spots there already. There are 2 spots there already. They're like kind of right by the ramp. But
I thought they were on this part of the side of the building.
Reoriented them.
Okay. Do they turn the building in this?
Slight move.
Yeah.
And then deliveries are at the top of the document where the little rectangle
Projection.
next to the curve. So the curve is for people and the rectangle
This
is
Yes.
the delivery
Okay.
entrance.
So there would be kind of a delivery
Right
or
there.
a dock
Yeah,
right there?
Correct.
Okay, exactly,
correct.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead. And actually, maybe you know the answer to this. Is there kind of a standard or best practice for number of accessible parking spots based on the number of visitors kind of thing? And where does this map with any kind of best practices around that?
So the parking actually hasn't been determined yet. So yes, there is a calculation for that. And we will be working as an overall site design on that, but we have not yet. So what you're seeing is just intent immediately adjacent to the State House. There's actually parking right off the screen right there. So that has to be addressed as well. And then all parking holistically is being addressed as part of the overall design of the Capitol complex. So yeah, it's a big picture look and it's more than us just at the entry are looking at right now.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Scott.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're fine.
I did get a text from Representative Emmons, and one of the things she wanted to bring up was this whole discussion about parking, because there was a lot of discussion in the House Corrections Institutions Committee about losing the parking spaces and the ADA parking, as well as the truck access. I think that's one of the things she was wanted to talk about as well. So this fits right in this part of the conversation with some of the concerns that were raised in that committee. So I just wanted to speak up and mention that. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. Thank you for relaying what Rep. Emmons wanted to say to us. Appreciate it.
And I can provide a little data to that question because we were all in that committee hearing in House Corrections and Institutions. So we don't have so part of this we will lose the C lot, which is the parking lot that is right outside of the Legislator Lounge and the loading dock. And in all these conversations, we're balancing so many things in accessibility, but also security. It is highly advised against to have parking so close to the building. So Lot C had 8 spots, I believe, has 8 spots, and they're all for legislators that need close access to the building for mobility issues. So we're gonna lose those 8 spots, but some data is, I think right now, we have 184, give or take a few spots, designated for legislator parking, and we have 180 legislators. So we don't really have a parking spot issue. What we're working with BGS on is more of an enforcement issue, making sure that people are parking where they're supposed to be parking. So that's one piece of a very large conversation. But then the next piece is, and parking is to be determined, and we put that watermark in there because parking causes a lot of reasonable conversations. But parking for members of the public that need to access the building is a priority of the project. And we don't have the plan yet, but that is a priority.
So Agatha, don't we also lose parking places on the east side that are abut the north? All those sort of parking spots for people who claim they have bad knees and hips and can't walk so far. So don't we lose some of those parking spaces too?
Nothing's touched on the east side as part of this project.
Well, yeah, we have a new entrance on the east side. I mean, there's going to be a new entrance there, right?
Parking is touched. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as our design.
I have to just make sure I've got my coordinates right. East is this side.
East is this
So no parking is affected on the east side of the building.
So those parking places that go drive right in and park perpendicular to the Senate committee rooms.
Yes, those remain in place.
So even though we have a slightly new entrance, there'll be a more, yeah, okay. So none of
I see. There'll be an enclosure. We haven't gotten to that part of the rendering yet, and I'm pointing because you can see it right out the window.
Yeah.
But there'll be a glass wall on this side, and it will be a secure entrance, meaning that only people with badges can get in through that door.
Okay. All right, wait, why don't we hold off until we get to that part? I'm assuming you have a slide on the other side, or?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yes.
So there.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Right. So this plan, this is a floor plan that shows the extent of the anticipated work. And it had been, because of budget reasons, it had been reduced a good deal. We are showing more scope now, and we'll see how the pricing comes out, because we're trying to control pricing such that we can achieve the scope that we want to achieve, rather than just what we think we can afford to achieve earlier in the process. So it's always a process through any project where you're constantly reevaluating your budget and your design. It just happens all the time because prices change, you get different opinions, there's more information on the drawings. So you're always adjusting what you're doing as you go through. So this shows what we would hope to do is full build out as part of this project. And what this shows is the entry on the left that's got the curved face. And as you walk through, you can see you go from that purple space. And that white corridor, as I said, connects you all the way down to the other purple space down on the east end, which is on the right side, where you can see the Lincoln Hallway is from the State House. So that's a straight path all the way over. And so instead of walking through the building like this to get over there, you're actually directly line of sight, able to see where your goal is and how to get there.
So this is where you're talking about?
Correct.
And is this
Nope.
all, or
Right to there.
is this all enclosed?
So I'll have a roof on it, yes.
We'll have a roof on it? Okay.
Yeah. And is the atrium a glass atrium or?
Yeah, no.
Usually atriums are.
That's an old slide.
Old drawing.
Oh, okay.
We no longer call it an atrium.
Okay. Do you call it a vault now?
Okay, so this, I can speak for you because he's heartbroken. David wants as much glass as possible and is trying to, I think, personally, financially contribute to the structure of as much glass as possible. But the glass, because of the code, has to be fire rated, and there's significant amounts of restrictions and limitations on putting glass on the ceiling. So they're working with a glass or ceiling glass roof
Yes.
expert to maximize glass. We don't have the prices yet, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael. Michael Chernick, could I just ask you all to keep your side conversation down because it's distracting? Thank you.
So, may I just-
Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, so Sean, this is yet another reason, and I know if we had taken the roof and unified the roof all the way along, we could have a glass atrium all the way along. But because we're not unifying the roof and we're doing this sort of higgledy-piggledy roof lines, we are stuck. Right? Is that not correct? If we had unified the roof, we could have glass all the way through this lovely long line and add light fully all the way to the atrium. Is that not correct?
We would have a lot more glass. It would remain to be seen if we could have it all, but we'd have a lot more, correct?
Right.
But I thought you said we couldn't do that because of fire code.
Well,
Wait, I want to hear what Sean.
it depends on what's around the glass. So I'll do a quick diagram here. Because the roof's at a low level and there's a wall right here that has windows in it, fire can go this way and it can go that way. So it creates a problem for spread of fire. We're trying to control it. If the roof's up here, then there's no longer that issue per se, and we have the potential of putting more glass there on
Okay.
the roof.
John, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I don't want to derail this conversation, but I want to relay another comment or question from Representative Emmons.
Okay, yes, please go ahead.
So she just wanted to ask if the Montpelier Capital Complex Committee needed to weigh in, as well as any federal historic entities.
Yes. The short answer is yes. The Capital Complex Commission will need to review and approve designs for exterior impacts on the State House. We have had an initial informational meeting with them without a need for decision-making because we're not quite at that stage where they'll want to be reviewing materials, et cetera. So we'll be approaching the time where we'll have another meeting with them soon But yes, they will have an approval role in this. And then, Laura can speak better to me about the federal approvals, but from a historic perspective, the answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. We will be reviewing, the State Historic Preservation Office will review the construction plans. Typically, we're looking at 30% and then 60% as close as we can get to final. Then we will comment and forward those over to the National Historic Landmark Program. And they will review and give final input approvals.
Wow, okay.
And what's the timeline? Sorry.
No, go
They
ahead.
take 90 days, we take 30 days, but we're involved, so I don't see us needing our 30. But they will require their 90 to turn around and send it back to me to ask me what I think.
Okay.
All right, let's continue with this conversation about the atrium and everything. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna
Susan.
ask about this atrium conversation, or maybe don't call it an atrium, the space formerly known as an atrium. Can you walk us through in this entry pathway, if I am a person who uses a wheelchair and I'm coming in the entrance and I want to get to the elevator, what does that look like? How does that work? Are there any improvements to the elevators in this overall?
Good question. The elevator's terrible here, so.
I can answer if that's okay. And it's one of the reasons this question has not come up in this group, but it always comes up. Why didn't we build the entryway on the east side? But one of the benefits of building it here is as soon as someone comes in, they have access immediately to the elevator. So they can come in and use this elevator, which the elevators do different things, which is a blessing and a curse of the building. But this elevator can get them to the mezzanine and the cafeteria level. But if they have to go to the 40s, if they have to go to a committee on the 3rd floor, then they'll come down here and go through to get to the elevator. That's right here. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Here, and no upgrades,
The same elevators that we currently have, the 2 elevators are the only elevators.
Okay.
And that remains true of this plan. There's no new elevator.
And no upgrades to the existing elevators.
We are refurbishing the upper elevator and we are reconfiguring the fire stair next to it. So that will be a dressed up area because it is public now. It will be prime public space. So that's the intent. It's very expensive to replace the elevator because we'd have to probably enlarge it because code requires bigger elevators now. And we don't want to have to do that. But we can change the finishes and make it function, change the controls so that they're more accessible.
And I think from a visitor accessibility perspective, one of the challenges now, right, is the elevators hidden and then you don't really see it, you know where it is, and just having any elevator access be just as accessible and welcoming as stairs, hallways, all those other things is really important.
That'll be the prime route for anyone traveling up in the building. So that's for everyone. That's the path.
And Agatha usually points this out, but there will be a welcome desk. So you'll go through security, a welcome desk that will be staffed. We'll send people in various directions depending on what they're there to do. So we have no such thing currently in the main lobby of the State House either. So this will be a whole new way of navigating from that point on.
Where is the cloakroom in relation? Oh, it's the light
Right.
main.
Yes.
And would that be used by school groups as well?
Yes, we have
Large?
We have a plan that we could actually have so in this coat room, it's the same coat room. But there's a spot now that's the chief's office that we have to figure out what to do with because the chief will no longer be there. So we can make the coat room bigger. We probably will use that space for something else to be determined. But this plan does have a place for tour groups and for students to drop their stuff and to collect themselves before they enter the State House. The idea is that this would either be a solid wall or even better, some sort of movable wall so that we can, like every room in this building, they're multi-use. The space is multi-use. Right now, we're using this for legislative hearing. It's used for caucuses. It's used for committee hearings. It's used for outside groups. And so this, if the wall is movable, we can use it for multiple things, make the coat room bigger if we need to. But yes, we'd like to have a place for students to congregate.
Okay, and the copy room would be.
And the copy room, actually, that's, I can bring you up to speed. That's actually already happening.
Oh.
So it has been the wish of the director of IT for many years to relocate the copy room from where it currently is here, which is an enclosed space and very tight. And I won't get into the details, but it was much better to relocate them back here, bigger space with windows. And this actually works well for our new plan because the copy room is a service at the State House that members of the public use quite a bit. It's not just the legislators and the staff that use it, members of the public use it. So this now will be the most public, intentionally portion of the State House. So members of the public will have easy access to the copy room instead of trying to sort of back navigate through to where it is currently. So this is happening this summer. So when you come back for the next session, the copy room will be in that back area.
And are there bathrooms going in where I see?
Yes. So
wow.
I can keep going, but during this design development, so I'll say this picture shows one floor plan, but we've picked up during the feedback sessions during design development that we may not want to have our Capitol Police operation fully contained in the unsecure part of the building. So we can move some things around, but essentially there's potential to have a restroom here in the entryway in the unsecure part, and then restrooms here in what was old copy room. But to the experience of a visitor coming in, it would be really nice if when a visitor comes in, they have access immediately to a restroom, an elevator, a stair, a lactation room. Those things kind of have them in one place for visitors to have access to.
Excellent. And what about, I know this isn't a thing that happens all year round, but the sort of gift room,
Gift shop. Yes. This is an opportunity to have a like a satellite gift shop or a gift shop. We've talked about this. We do think that it makes sense to keep some sort of gift shop operation up by the cafeteria during session because it's close to legislators. They don't have to travel far to get to it. But absolutely, we would try to incorporate some sort of gift shop element into this new space. It's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, the gift shop, student orientation and visitor orientation are so key to this. And what we really don't have in this design, which I think some of us were hoping for initially, was a place that all visitors would go to see like an orienting film, like they do at Billings Farm and Museum, where you go and you have a very short film that orients you. Many museums now do this. And given the number of visitors we have, the visitor orientation piece is really important. So maybe in the non-school days time, the student orientation, the school group orientation space could be turned into a visitor orientation space. Is that possible?
It might, however, we're conscious that currently our plan is not to use single point of entry during the tourist season. So the tourists will still come in the front doors, the side doors, as they do now. And consequently, the front lobby is much busier, and that is the central focus for greeting people during the tourist season.
Right.
So we have these two very different seasons. During the session, it makes great sense to have orientation right where you're talking about, Allison. And a film is definitely an easy way for the school groups. Thousands of kids come here, more than from any other site in Vermont. And they're, of course, visiting VHS and the Supreme Court as part of typical Montpelier student visit. So yes, getting them into a space unto themselves at the very outset is the perfect way to begin their State House visit and to move on to the other parts of their visits as well. So I think the fine points of how we accomplish all of this back there are still to be worked out, but we do have to have flexibility in terms of moving these functions for different seasons as well.
Can I actually pick up on what you just said, David? That feels like new information, that this entryway would only be the exclusive entryway during the session. Can you talk a little more about that decision, putting $19 million towards a new entryway and then not having it be because of safety and accessibility?
It is the accessible entrance regardless. It's the accessible entrance now, right? To go into the loading dock.
Well, I know, not
and attempt to enter the State House and find your way. So we have always had these two very different seasons with different audiences, and that will not change. And so it is really for the session that this is happening in a big way, a bigger way, but improvements for accessibility for the State House in the rear, regardless of the season, are hugely important too. And we have not gone there
Well, I guess I
in the
would
past.
like to actually back up what Susan was saying, because it does feel like if we're gonna put this addition on and design it in a way that is for wayfinding and for accessibility and for access and hopefully for aesthetics, that it should be the main entrance all year round and also for security, and that you would know where people are coming into the building for the most case. Maybe there'll be special events, but it does seem odd to me that we would make a huge change, or you would make a huge change in the off session.
I guess a lot of us who deal with the tourist audience have great fear that they won't visit if they can't go in the obvious entrances.
Yeah.
To stick the only entrance in the rear of the State House and expect tourists, which are by and large our audience, to find their way to that entrance during that time of the year when the State House is only occupied by such activities, we would get a lot of pushback, believe it or not, from others who are involved in that.
I think you're correct. 7 months of the year, legislators forget that 7 months of the year, this is one of the top destination spots to visit in Vermont. And we have people pouring in all entrances. I think adding a most beautiful entrance for people who want to use it and need to use it is great. But to limit access for 7 months of the year, I don't think there's any reason to. And unless
I just add that one of the things that is admirable and impressive about this is that you're equalizing accessible entrance in doing this project. So now, right, the challenge we've all experienced, right, is and the challenge we're trying to fix is if you need an accessible entrance, you're shuttled to the back, and that's not ideal for anyone. And in making this change year round, you're making that change all the time, which is great. So I think that I wouldn't want to lose that part of it by opening the other entrances the rest of the year.
Yeah, and making this the beautiful entrance that people want to come into and making it the accessible and equitable entrance seems like the way to go to me.
I think that's great, but it just is another entrance. I mean, during the rest of the year, it's another beautiful entrance. Not everybody, I don't think there's one solution for everybody for the rest of the 7 months. So, I mean, I think that's a subject for discussion. I wouldn't see that we would want to for 7 months. I mean, it's just another glorious way to enter the State House. I mean, I think it's all good in the 7 months that we don't have to have such a secure ship.
So just a couple thoughts kind of from the Sergeant at Arms perspective, because security is purview of the Sergeant at Arms, and It's all about, my favorite word is balance. It's all about balance and finding the right size fit for the State House. So the State House our Vermont State House is pretty miraculous and it does many things that other state houses don't do. And the three major ones that I always refer to are, it's where lawmaking happens, it's a museum, and it's a convention center. So lawmaking is obvious, the legislators come here and they make their laws. The museum component is more of what we experience in our off session, our tourist season. And then the convention center is, we host tons of outside groups that come here and do things like naturalization ceremonies or other sort of induction ceremonies. And we are in a great spot where we can sort of flex or adjust our security posture based on what is happening in the building. So in March of this year, we made a bold step. And then I would say bold to the point where it was even unbudgeted step to go ahead and identify the loading dock as our, what some people call single point of entry. I like to call it security screening, but that was the goal. In the off session, I feel as though I'm very comfortable saying we're now in our museum mode. And some museums absolutely do have secure entrances, but the cost of operating a security screening and a single point of entry on a monthly basis is very high. So this would be a big conversation on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis on what is the right size fit for the State House and what is the right balance. So at this point, it's the doors, the maintenance, especially the front door, which has a incredible historic value, cultural value, community value of opening the front door of the State House. That is how tourists get into the building. It's not accessible. So the word is balance. And as of right now, the goal is to keep the new entrance as a secure entrance during session while balancing in the off session. It's a museum and we can have multiple entrances open. But it'll be a conversation that's revisited on an ongoing basis.
I will say one of the reasons that we're able to do this and other state capitals not so much is that the governor's office, for example, is not year-round in this building. And therefore, people like the governor and the legislatures are not residents of the building after that. And that is one of the reasons security is looked at in this way, with more openness to allowing us to continue to operate the way we always have.
Sounds like this will be a continuing conversation because there's differences of opinions on this one. But do you want to continue with your slideshow? I'm conscious of the time. We're scheduled for 3 hours. I'm hoping we don't need 3 hours, but we're already an hour and a half in. So let's continue and then we'll I'm sure have more questions.
Sure. Going from the floor plans, what we draw is exterior elevation. So we show in a flat plane what the building looks like, so you can check proportionality. In reality, if you were standing in front of the State House like this, what you see behind would be even smaller because perspective would take it away from your eye. But this shows you if everything was in the same plane, how they relate to each other in terms of size. And so that's what this is showing. Obviously, you can see how it goes up the hill, so to speak, towards the back. And it is shorter now. We have lowered it a little bit, as we said before, but still that's about how much you see. It's kind of peeking around the corner saying, hey, I'm over here. We don't want to do too much more than that because then it starts to detract from the overall composition of the State House assemblage.
And this is looking at it from this.
Correct.
This way.
And so the archway that that's open currently that goes to the courtyard that's in between the buildings, that would be enclosed with glass so that you could have your entryway to the Lincoln hallway. So it'd be conditioned space.
And this entrance would be a secure entrance for people with badges. Is that
correct? So only credentialed people would be access here because this isn't the checkpoint, so to speak. They track you, they track cards, so they know who's come and gone, but you have to have that credential to get through there.
Okay.
So that's the intent. And just a quick rendering that we had to show that it isn't changed. You still have the retaining wall there, the hill's still right there. We're not changing any of the site in that location. We're currently just closing that archway with glass so that we can use it as part of our access route.
But it would have a ceiling. So what are the little windows above it?
Those exist. That's a bridge over the top.
Oh, that's the, oh, okay.
That's the bridge from the house to the clerk's office.
I see, okay.
So our roof is on the other side.
On the other side of the bridge there's another, do you have any rendering that shows that?
We, not with us, no, but we do
Okay.
have, as we design, we use renderings as ways to decide things that we bring to the group. So we do have working drawings that we're using to figure out materials currently and also roof forms. So it's been very important to use those to try to figure out how to shape the roof, not only because of how it goes in height, but also because if you actually stand out in the courtyard and look around, all of the walls have windows at different heights and we can't block any of them. So we have to have the roof formed such that it misses all those windows. And that's what we're looking at with our 3D model and how that might work.
Yeah, that would be interesting to add to the slide deck, looking from the top and seeing how it looks. Yeah.
We're having a big roof discussion this Wednesday
Oh, I think roof
with our
is
design
still-
team.
Okay.
I think the roof is one of our biggest challenges. And so you can hear, Ruth, you can see one of the challenges here because the other side of that causeway is a roof that goes down. So if you spent a little more money and unified the roof, you'd solve a lot of these snow challenges that we see. You see the other side of that as one of our snow challenges. But Sean, you see these people standing here, it looks so lovely, but actually they're just cars there, which is really unattractive. And so it's just curious that we allow cars that close to the building, but you say the cars on the other side are too close. They're the same proximity. I don't get why the cars on this side are not as close as the cars on the west side.
We're addressing one topic at a time with our design.
Yeah.
Actually, the parking is part of the comprehensive capital complex and not part of this project in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like separately, as part of our FEMA recovery process, we're looking in total, right, at spaces in the complex and potential loss of spaces associated with this project by necessity. Those 8 spaces we discussed earlier, but then just what else might happen as we complete that work. So we're really viewing those separately, but also keeping them in mind that there are impacts in both places that we'll need to adjust for as we figure out the plans on both sides, right? But specific to this project, we're working with the Sergeant at Arms on, plans for parking during the legislative session and how we address the loss of those 8 spaces.
So the loss of those spaces is a potential with the larger plan.
They're definite with this current design.
Oh, the 8 spaces
Those 8
on that
spaces on
side,
that It's
not
it's
this
definite.
side though.
Correct. There's no lots of spaces on this side. It's really just the 8 that we talked about earlier. And so part of what Representative Emmons was asking about was developing a plan to address the loss of those 8 spaces. So that's something that we'll be coordinating about during the legislative session. How do we ensure that there's sufficient spaces for members, knowing that we're going to lose some capacity there? I think more broadly, like in the Capitol complex, loss of spaces is a somewhat separate but related issue.
And how, to Senator Clarkson's point about these spaces on this side being so close to the building, if the argument on the other side is we don't want spaces so close to the building, how do we justify keeping these spaces?
I think that was, one, this is just by necessity of the design. So it also fits into the Sergeant at Arms point that just generally speaking, it is better to have cars distanced from sensitive buildings and buildings in general, right? Just from a safety perspective. So here, it's really the design that's driving the loss of those spaces rather than responding specifically to that principle of security, right? And so it's there, that's just again, by necessity, whereas here, we're not making any changes. And to be frank, we don't have a lot of capacity to lose parking spaces, especially in proximity to this building, which so many people need to access. We don't have a lot of alternatives to consider. So at this point, again, it's really focused on replacement or addressing the loss of those spaces driven by design.
Okay.
Right.
So wait, go ahead, Sean. But sorry, Allison, we'll get to you in just a second.
Absolutely. I'll just build on that quickly, just so everyone understands our position as to how we approach it is when we do our work, and we've been charged with doing a certain amount of work. When we do our drawings, we denote what our scope of work is, and there's a limit line. And that's how the contractors know what's in their scope and what they're pricing. And our limit line stops where that glass wall is.
Okay.
That's the limit of what we can touch as part of our project.
Okay.
So
Senator Clarkson, go ahead.
So while we have so many BGS people in the room, can you remind us why we haven't done anything with the pit? Do we not own the pit? Is that the city of Montpelier that owns the pit where all the parking is, where we could have actually a 3 or 4 story garage that would take care of this problem?
We do own the pit, the state does, and it's currently used. There are some designated legislative spots during session there, as well as executive branch parking. We have over the years, and Representative Emmons will remember well, there have been previous concepts to build a deck in the pit. There was one that really ended up getting appropriations. And then as I understand, there was some local pushback to the concept. And so it never moved forward. But that has been something that's been considered over the years and is necessary parking for the state. We do need those spaces in the pit.
Yeah, we need those spaces, more of them, like 3 levels.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that is worth our re-exploring. I'm just going to put a pin in it because it could also be housing above. I mean, that is unused. That is sort of almost embarrassing that is so underused, that space, because it's huge.
Okay. We're going to go back to the space we're talking about. So I think we have one more slide, which is the schedule and budget slide. So let's look at that.
I can speak to the schedule at least. I can't speak to the budget as much. That's a complex thing that you all work on, and it's a little bit mysterious to me, but I work with construction cost. So that's as far as I get. But the schedule, you can see where we are by the red arrow, and that shows where we are in the design development phase. There's 3 primary phases in design. Schematic design, where you did the quick sketches that you saw. Design development, where you're actually making things work. And we're getting close to making things work. We still have a few hurdles, but we're getting all this input to make sure what we make work is what people want. So that's what this last part is, to see what we might have to adjust in the design as we're working out the kinks. So that's that design development phase. And once that's wrapped up, we'll have another cost estimate. So we'll understand where that is, hopefully from a construction manager, because that's a project delivery method that's outside our purview as designers, but that's how the construction happens. And so they would be the best to say how much this costs, given the logistics of everything you have to keep in mind during this. It's a tight site and it's in operation most of the year. So after that phase, we move into construction documents, which is we take all the design that's been approved, and it all has to be approved. We don't dictate anything here. It's all a process of approvals and then figuring out, okay, once we know what to do, how do we do it? And that's partly where a construction manager would say, I need it phased this way, I need it sequenced to that way. And as we're doing that, we work with them and say, okay, this is how we're going to detail this as to how you build it to accommodate that requirement. So we can design it to be built anyway, but we prefer it to be built designed in the way that they actually is most advantageous to build it for the contractor and all the subcontractors. So that's that green section is we're figuring all of that stuff out, which is, we've got the design, now we have to figure out how does it go together. And we've got the basics of it in design development where we say, we know the elements we're using, we know how they're going together as far as the assembly of parts. But then we get into how are they sequenced? Which part comes first? Is it we're going to start on the east and work west? Are we going to do the stairs and the elevator first? What is that sequence? And that's how we put our drawings together.
I have a question about communication, and I'm not sure if this is for you or for you guys, but so I live in Middlebury, and we've had two really big construction projects recently in downtown. One was actually state, federal, local transportation project where we built the tunnel that the train goes through in downtown Middlebury, and it was hugely disruptive to the town. And we had an amazing person who worked with AOT to do communication to the community about what was going on with that project. And it was so great because the project was so disruptive to the downtown and impacted so many different people, businesses, schools, all the things. And that person set this really amazing standard for communication with the public. And then we're right now in the midst of almost to ribbon cutting of our beloved library. And Susan, I think, knows about this project, the Ilsley Library, which is kind of the equivalent in Middlebury to a State House project, because it's a building that everybody loves and everybody uses. And our library director has done an amazing job of communicating like every single step of the way what is going on with photos and communication about here's what's happening now, everybody, and here's what you're seeing, and here's what you can expect, and all the stuff, and here's where we are with budget and design and all the things. And it's been so great to get everybody excited about the project, but also to keep all the stakeholders in the know. And, whether they're downtown businesses or childcare centers who come to the library or whatever, and all the disruptions are explained. And I'm just wondering, because I've seen this work so well in my community, what the plan is for this project, because it does seem like we need the equivalent here with this really good communication to not only the people who live in this town and are going to be impacted by whatever construction happens, but all the people who use this building, whether we work here or serve here or visit here or whatever. So I guess I'm wondering what that plan is.
I love the question. It's a great question. The reality is there's no plan yet.
Okay.
But when it comes, we'll need a very substantial plan because there's so many elements to this, including neighbors, Montpelier, members of the public that we don't know. I mean, there's people planning their trip in France right now to come and visit next year and the year after. We get a lot of international visitors. There are a lot of strangers that come to the building that we don't know. So part of that communication plan will absolutely fall on Sergeant Arms and Capitol Police in collaboration with BGS, because there will be parts, because this construction spans multiple years. There will be a year, for example, potentially that the west side of the building is no longer where you enter, because we have to rip down a staircase and disrupt the loading dock completely. Now we'll have to shift to the west side. So, or committees that are on the mezzanine, their staircase will be torn apart completely, that back staircase. So you won't be able to use that staircase to get to the mezzanine anymore. How are you gonna get to the mezzanine now? So these are all details that we've discussed on a large, like an overview, but we haven't yet gotten down into the details of exactly what this is gonna be, what's the domino effect. But we know there will be a lot of domino effects because of the part of the building that we're working on.
Yeah.
So I'll tune in to Middlebury and see what some of those communications look like, but that would be our goal, is no surprises is the goal.
Yeah.
People should know what to expect when they're coming to the building.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can put you in touch with the two people who did this communication, and because I think they set a really good standard. And VTrans has hired the communicator for other projects because he did such a great job with this downtown Middlebury project. And just because it's a building that so many people impact so many people, but also so many people love and have strong feelings about. The more you communicate what's happening, the more buy-in you're going to get, and the less fewer complaints you're going to get.
And the nature of the building, we know this by activating screening this year, is we have a very important job during legislative session. have a very important mission to come to the building and testify. And if they lose a few minutes because they had nowhere to park, and then they lose a few minutes because then they have to go through screening, and then they lose a few minutes, well, now they're late to testify.
Yes.
This is a very stressful situation. So the goal is no surprises, but we have not yet worked out the domino effect of how everything's gonna be ripped apart and put back together. But yeah, it's a great.
And it's a great caution, so thank you for bringing communication to the front of this, because I think we assume the State House gets a certain amount of attention, and yet this project itself has been surprisingly under the radar.
Yeah, look, I'm chairing this committee and I didn't know.
That too. But I think it's all the different ways that people look at the State House. And we talked about the two different seasons. That's part of it, of hitting your audience with the right communication tools.
Yeah.
And different audiences are looking at different things for different reasons. And we need to be on top of that. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah.
And if I'm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important to just highlight again, what you saw in that schedule and budget slide was intentionally developed to avoid disruption. Like any project causes disruption. That's just the nature of construction, right? And
Yeah.
so the phased approach was designed to minimize disruption during the legislative session, right? When like the core work activities are occurring in the building. So that does create a longer timeline. And just in terms of where we are, I do think it's useful to call out so everybody understands where we are. Again, in the design development phase, as Sean mentioned, we'll be working more deeply into the construction documents. There's still some time bumped out before we're really finalizing things and initiating construction. At this point, we've had funding, and I mentioned those ARPA funds earlier, for design work, essentially the work that we've been doing to date. There was $1.3 million in this past capital bill for additional funding for more of the design work. And then what we're outlining in this document is estimated future funding requests based on the schematic design that was approved by the Joint Legislative Management Committee this past spring. So again, I think it's always important to remember these are our best estimates of timeline and cost at this point in time. Things change, right? So it's important to call out and that there are decision points in the future for legislators about, you know, approving final designs and then also funding decisions to come down the road.
And I think that's precisely why good communication is so important, because as things change, people will read into that things that aren't true. And if you communicate about it, then it's a lot easier to continue to have buy-in to the project rather than skepticism about the project.
And Ruth, you're so right, because the funding piece is pretty much all with the legislature. So the legislature has to really appreciate why we're doing this, who we're doing it for. And, you know, we have not touched this building in any significant way, really, since '86. And it is so ready for the next update. And
Yes.
so that is why the purpose is very important. And maybe doing a presentation to the whole legislature actually early on, once we're a little more set, is going to be critically important. We've already had one public hearing, but we didn't have a hearing. You know, we haven't had a public hearing with the legislature yet, who are the financiers. So we've really got to woo them and sell them on this project. And yeah, so I think your communication thing is so important, both for the public and for the legislators.
For sure. Susan. And even just a concrete thing on that is that you've all done so much work of outreach and meeting with people and all of that. Even having a slide with just like the names of every group that you've met with, like there have been names coming out today. I'm like, oh, you met with VSAL. Great. Like you're going to meet with this constituency group. Just like a slide where all those names are on the same slide could be helpful to tell that story quickly.
Okay. Do you have any final things you all would like to say about the design or the presentation or questions you have for us, since we're here to give you feedback?
And next steps. I mean, I'm just key for us as a committee, what our next steps are with you too.
And that's a good point. Our next steps, I hinted at it in the last comments, but the next steps are we're continuing to meet as a project team, as a design team, working on these details to wrap up design development with the comments. That'll be a decision-making process as to what comments are incorporated, which are not. The interesting thing we see from the different groups that we hear from, even within the groups, is they'll often give you conflicting feedback themselves. Like one member of the group totally disagrees with the other member of the group. So it's a process of what is important and what really needs to be addressed and what is just someone's opinion because it's their personal preference.
Yeah.
That's a sorting through process we're going through now. So we're working through the technical aspects, and once all of that is complete, we'll publish a set that's called a design development set, and that'll set the design for the construction document process. That doesn't mean things can't be changed. It's just smaller things can be changed at that point. So that's our goal is, right, I believe it's mid-October, we're finishing design development. And once that's complete, we'll have a review process. And then the next step is to move into the construction document phase, in which case we're working on all the fine details at that point of how is that actually going to work. And so that's the next steps. And that's a process that will take months as well.
So given that, it seems to me this committee might want to meet again in October once you have those design development materials more fleshed out, so we can get more details about what the design looks like and hopefully more angles and more robust kind of design presentation. So it will be more set then, but we can still give you more feedback as you move forward. And then the next time it seems to me that is important is when we're talking about the interior, because this committee has particular jurisdiction over the art and furnishings and interiors of the State House. And I know I have strong feelings about artwork, as our curator knows. I'm sure Susan and Michelle do, and Senator Clarkson does. So just making sure that we have some input into the interior design of the addition. Sorry, that would be really helpful, I think, in how it functions for the groups that we're targeting, particularly school groups, because it doesn't feel like there's much in this building that is for them in terms of art.
May I ask a next steps question for Sean? Sean, you've mentioned that you're going to have a further roof discussion, because I think the roof is really worth fighting for in getting a better unified roof so that we don't have this snow load challenge every 5 feet. I mean, with every different height, all dumping on this thing. I mean, I know you're about to have this conversation. Is that, I mean, if you all felt strongly one way, let's say you all thought a unified roof was really the only way to go. How hard would you fight for that? And how, I mean, I know it would impact the budget, but we haven't done this for a long time. I mean, we're not doing, once we're into doing a project, I want us to do it right. And I want us to do it the best that we can possibly do, because we're not going to touch the State House for another 30 or 40 years like we haven't. So I guess my question is, in your roof conversation, are you open to an ideal and solving those problems? Because I don't think those are insurmountable, the things you've already mentioned today on the roof.
Right. Everything in general, I'll make a general statement. Everything can be solved with the right technical application and enough money. So that's a general statement. But there are some subjective things that may not be able to be solved, which is if there's an absolute rejection of being able to enclose the north facade of the State House, then that can't be solved via technical or money. It's just, if it's enclosed, it's enclosed. If it's not, it's not. So if that is an obstacle, then that's something that dictates that you cannot put a roof at a high level. That being said, what would make me advocate for that in a more stringent manner is if we're doing these low roof solutions, and I find that as we work through the details in more and more precision, that I think that I'm causing a potential failure point for the existing buildings. That would really push me towards saying, I think we need to look at a whole different solution. So that's something that would come up.
So I think as long, I will say as a user of the State House for 22 years, and Alice has used it for even longer, and David, the north side of the house isn't an issue. Those are already shuttered. I mean, so that as long as there's light, if there's light coming in, everything just needs light. I mean, what we don't have now is, as long as we can keep the light coming into all those committee rooms and even the north side of the house, which are shuttered, they aren't open to the light. It strikes me that is, I don't know why there's subjective opposition to that, given that a unified roof would ideally provide even more light and light without the weather impacting.
David, you want to say something?
I have to say, Allison, that I know the shutters are usually closed, but there would definitely be a darkening of the house chamber on that particular side of the access to the speakers addition. So it would definitely affect the windows on both the north, but also on the west side of the chamber. And there could be, I think it would be very hard for that. I don't know what the SHPO thinks about this, but I'm already concerned about the effect on room 11. I'm talking room 11 down here on the first floor in terms of not getting very much light with the current roof, the roof that Sean has designed that can't allow for a whole lot of skylight. But, I want to be open to what that may look like, but we've seen absolutely no analysis that would allow us to understand how the borrowed light would still allow the house chamber to feel the same way during the daytime with natural light coming in through even the upper part of those windows. I'm the one who came up with the closed shutter look. In the wake of the restoration, we started closing shutters in certain locations, in part to help. We have this need for natural light to make the State House look the way it always has looked. And yet we also have to protect the interiors. And so it's a constant battle to keep UV protection at bay as well, with our collections and so on. But I would be open to whatever the design team decides it needs to make a decision like the one that you're talking about. We have not gone down that road very much. So it would be a whole new avenue of trying to understand what that could look like and how much that would cost.
Are there other questions or comments at this point on where we're at? Rep. Emmons, I just want to make sure you have a chance if you are able to talk to us at this point.
Let me try. I moved to a different part of the house. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, that's better.
Okay. How much of the current money of the 1.3, and you had 800,000 previous, how much of that has been expended to date? Do you know?
We still have, the 1.3 has not been touched at all. The ARPA funds and a little bit, there was an additional appropriation of 150,000. The 150,000 has been marginally touched. There's the bulk of it is still there, roughly 100,000+ of the ARPA funds. I want to believe that we have expended 400 some odd thousand
In total, 400,000
for the ARPA funds.
of the, and the ARPA is the 170.
That's part of, there's 150,000 in there, state funds also.
Okay.
Yes. So roughly.
And what's left of the ARPA funds has to be expended by the end of December. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So when you're finished with the design, I call them design documents, the development, is it difficult to go back and change those designs to get ready for the construction documents? Because I'm just thinking the time frame and the questions that members have of the committee, particularly of the roof. So you're headed in one direction with the development documents right now to get us to construction documents. And you plan on having those construction documents, your development documents will be done towards the end of this calendar year.
Correct.
Let's say November, October or November. And then you would get into construction documents. At the time that you finish those development documents and say this committee or other members want to change their direction a little bit, I'm thinking about the roof situation. What occurs on your world and what occurs to the money, the amount of money?
Right.
I'll let Sean speak with more specificity, but just in general, going back and changing at that point, like Sean referenced earlier, some smaller tweaks are easier to accommodate. Major tweaks are more difficult, and it's important to understand would impact the timeline and the budget. So, depending on what the desired changes are, it could be a big impact, it could be a small impact. But you would need to rework those documents. So again, that's an added time and an added cost to go back and change that. So again, this was based on the approved schematic design from JLMC. And all that work is based on that approved design.
Right. I appreciate that. I only asked the question because Sean was saying that you were having a meeting about the roof. And if there was an original objective of trying to unify the roof so that we don't have all the snow load challenges of the dumping on this new roof. And
yes,
that you at least think about this. I'm on JLMC and I know what we've approved. I just think that if there are concerns about this varied roof line that a unified roof would solve, I think all of us can appreciate something that isn't going to create more problems down the line. I think you understand what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely, yes.
Can I ask, I didn't quite hear from you what the concerns are in terms of the current roof design and the snow load and everything that Senator Clarkson is referring to. I mean, you mentioned it briefly, but could you speak more to that?
Sure. So there's the roof, as an overall, the meeting we're having about the roof is we have 3 different options on how to make the current roof design work. And each one has a trade-off, and we're trying to determine what is the best trade-off design there. Any design is going to have trade-offs. So we're working through that right now. Now, the issue that they're part of the analysis is exactly what the senator was talking about is in a roof form that's below another roof that has walls surrounding it, what we have to account for is snow drifting and water accumulation. But snow drifting is of primary importance because the snow isn't technically important, but when it starts to melt, it becomes very important. So that's what our concern is. Because we have to miss the head of this window here, or we have to miss the sill of this window here, and then we have another window over here that we're missing. We're creating roof forms that will be aesthetically still pleasing, that aren't a mishmash of every type of shape you can think of, that miss all those points and actually make the drainage work. And so what our concerns are in our first go round, as we did it, was that the thickness of the roof and the materials we were using and the shape we had, in some instances, the top of that roof was starting to get very close to a windowsill, which means if you have drifting snow, you're going to have snow built up against that window. And when it melts, it's going to start to deteriorate that material that's there.
So what Senator Clarkson is talking about is raising the roof so it's above all the windows, and then the windows would be looking out into the atrium or whatever we're calling it.
In that case, it would become.
Then it would be an atrium.
Then it would be an atrium. Okay. So, and that would solve the problem of the snow melt potentially, but it would cause other problems with the lighting and the sort of view from the.
And the fire protection.
And the fire protection.
But it may not solve everything because all the roof lines are not equal.
Okay.
So when you look at the cafeteria addition, you'd be extending a wall vertically on that side to get you up to that rooftop. Then there's an impact from looking outside of the cafeteria. There's the connector going from the 30s into the cafeteria that you're now being closing. What would that then require code-wise from that separation? So all that does come into play. Also, so it's not as just simple as raising the roof another 15 feet and going, okay, that's perfect.
Sounds so cool. Just
it does.
Like a whole song about it. Exactly.
If it was that easy, it probably would have stuck.
Yeah. Laura, did you have something? Yeah.
Well, and also how it gets and where it gets attached to the existing State House matters.
Yeah.
Will the new roof be heated?
If, depending on how it works out, yes, I think in some instances where the drains are, would want to be heated so that we can eliminate water more quickly. We don't want it accumulating there and building up over a winter time to then drain against an existing wall, which would then absorb that water and cause a potential problem inside the building. So what we want to do is make sure we can melt around that drain so that it brings that pile down and it goes away. So in addition, one thing that aesthetically we think about, the atrium itself, if you call it the atrium, if it had a high roof, it has a volume that potentially could work. But think about if you want to go stand out where the narrow part of between the buildings is, and then imagine that being a 3-story roof. So you're standing there and you're in a space that's about 12 feet wide and about 35 feet high. And you're thinking, this is a really odd space. And maybe it isn't that high. Maybe we just fake a ceiling at a certain point and say, but then you have to start thinking about what are the ramifications of what I'm doing? And to Joe's point, in similar aspects to the windows, we'd have to design the roof around the whole perimeter of the other roofs. It's kind of a little bit easier solution in some ways because we're not dealing with as much potential drainage and we're not dealing with as many potential fire issues, but it comes with its own issues. So yes, there's a number of things to look at.
Okay. Susan.
And this, just two things I'd be interested in hearing about in the future, probably not for today. One would just be on how the new building would respond to climate impacts, flooding, excessive rain. You was talking about melting snow made me think about excessive rain too, and just modeling what that would look like with the hill and all that.
And energy efficiency.
Oh, yeah, that's energy efficiency. And then the other one would be sound and acoustic modeling inside the space, especially back to the glass originally thought of what that sound bouncing around in there could sound like with 250 fourth graders all in there together.
Yeah, that's a hard thought.
Lots of hard surface.
We have actually, even just this morning, we were talking about acoustic properties and how we would address that through various things, one of them being potential art solutions. That actually came up. So we think there's a way to aesthetically treat those apart from the traditional way where you used to see the things that looked like spaghetti panels, where it had all the swirling. We don't want to use that. That's not what we're going to do.
Another consideration would think, I sound like I'm anti-glass and anti-atrium. I am not. Atriums are horrible for, you're rarely in an acoustically sound atrium.
Yes.
So something else to consider on the pros and cons and trade-offs.
Yes, the larger the space, the more reverb time there is, and it makes it harder to trace.
Okay. I think that it is a little afternoon, and what I'm hearing from everybody is I have a list of things that we want to either hear more about or get updates about the next time we meet. One, and so let me know if I've missed anything. One is a communications plan. What is it and how will it be executed? More conversation potentially. These are some things that I heard disagreements about or questions about. The year-round use conversation, that there was still some questions about that. So maybe just thinking about that a little bit more and getting us more information about the plan for the session versus off session.
Just on that one, not just to set expectations in the right place. That's more of a joint goals, but
understood.
Yeah.
I know that this
much bigger than
understood. And we're merely an advisory committee. I understand that, but I think these are some of the things I'm hearing from people around this table.
No, I got on my list too. Because
Yeah.
I want to set expectations on that one.
Understood, yes. And then the roof line, obviously, I think that whatever you end up deciding, and I hear Rep. Emmons talking, I heard your point, Alice, about, once the design is set, it's hard to change it. So again, we're only advisory. We don't have the authority to tell you to change anything, but more information about where you landed and why would be helpful, just to sort of ease everybody's concerns, because they have differing opinions about the roof line situation. A list of the stakeholders consulted, I think that would just be helpful for everybody to know. As the parking plans, you develop more information about that and the traffic flow, the climate and energy efficiency issues, sound and acoustics, and then finally interior design. Is there anything?
I think I'll bring up one other thing. There is a group of historic preservationists who are a little in disagreement with each other about the look of this on the outside. And Laura, they're being grouped together by the Preservation Trust of Vermont. And Laura has agreed to help with that group to facilitate an ongoing conversation about some of the objections to what this looks like on the outside. So it's solely confined to that, to the look of the approach, to the look of the lobby as you approach it. I think it would be good to know whether any of you like the current design or not. And I haven't heard a lot of dissent, but before we adjourn, maybe if any of you are not crazy about it.
Are you talking about this part of it? Yeah.
If any of you are not crazy about it, I think it would be a good time right now to know that.
Right, but can we finish the list? Because on Ruth's list is not the stairwell, the fire escape, which I think.
Oh, the fire escape. Yep, okay.
Fire escape is, I think, an issue. And the gift shop, just, as we figure out places for things. But I think you've got a good list there. I think just add the.
And thank you, Senator. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to add more specifically the question related to the landscaping and accessibility piece, because we haven't really seen that as much. So we kind of talked about it a little bit with parking, but I feel like that's another piece where really talking through some of those stakeholder needs, and also the single point that goes alongside the single point of entry discussion. I think those plans will be something that will be really interesting.
It'll be a big update.
Yeah. And
Will by October, will we have a landscaper's design to look at?
by October? Okay, that's great to know. And I'm assuming this list is very similar to other groups that have,
Yes.
I would be shocked if we brought up anything that other people haven't brought up, maybe with a little bit more nuance, but,
Is Jenna involved with Laura on the historic preservation, the preservation trust piece?
Jenna, yes, Jenna is putting
Preservation
that
Trust.
group together.
okay.
We're scheduling a meeting and I will send out, we'll make sure you all know when that meeting is in case you'd like to tune in.
So does it make sense for us to meet again in October, just to get updates on these things? Does everyone, thank you, Senator. Rep. Emmons, do you think that makes sense? I know you're on other relevant committees, but I'm gonna take the
I
silence
missed
as
part of it because
the timeline to meet again in October to get an update. Do you feel like that makes sense?
yes.
Okay. Everyone else, does that feel okay? John, good with that? Sure.
Do anything.
Megan,
If they're expecting this thing mid-October, I know that your initial suggestion had been to meet mid-October, but to accommodate that timeline, does late October like
yeah, late October sounds good, as long as it's not on the very first Vermont Library Day.
So just for timing, so JLMC we made a request that they meet in late October to review the designs.
Okay.
That's kind of like, JLMC is the start of the process and they're the end of the process, and stakeholder engagement, capital complex, commission, this group, you guys are all the stuff in the middle to inform our final recommendation to JLMC. So that will be at the end of October. Our hope is that it's at the end of October.
Okay, so maybe we
Might
should
be a good
meet
idea.
before them, like the week before.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. We should meet
So-
before JLMC.
Maybe Megan and I can work on finding a date that's before them, but not too early that you don't have updates. I can send this list to the whole committee if I can get the membership on the committee, or I can send it to you and you can send it to the whole committee. And then I will send you more specifics about the communication so you can
That'd be great.
talk to the folks in Middlebury. Is there anything else that people want to ask or say before we adjourn? Senator Clarkson?
Weigh in on David's question. I like the design at the moment for the rounded design.
Right, sorry.
I'm sorry it's having to go down. I just want to say Molly Burke likes the design. She likes the plan and particularly the interior, but she likes the plan as presented.
I like this. As I said at the beginning, this was my favorite of the ones that you had on those slides. And I was wondering, as you were, I was like, which one did they pick? But you picked my favorite. So I think it's good. Anyone else have comments on it?
I'm gonna say that I would defer to the historic preservationists on that. I don't think you're asking, Susan's personal aesthetic opinion would be to have a completely modern addition, but I would be slaughtered in the streets and Laura would never talk to me again. So I do think it is really important to get historic preservation communities support and buy-in for wherever this lands, and that acknowledging that might take a little time and care and attention, and that will be worth it in the long run to do that, which you all know.
And we've not decided on any materials yet, so that could change the aesthetic. And that's important.
Yeah, for sure. Materials matter, the color and.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? Well, thank you very much for your presentation, your slides, your work, and for your input as well, everybody's input. And Madam Sergeant at Arms, thank you especially for taking the lead and also making sure that we got a seat at the table on this. Thank you, David. And okay, if there's nothing else, then I will adjourn this meeting to